So coming into the second part of the two-part interview with Sebe, we're going to now be talking about the new roster. So this is something very exciting. I'll completely leave it to you to go as much in depth as you want to start off with before I start asking any more questions about this new roster, what we can expect, and more importantly, who makes up the roster.
So actually quite exciting. In 8 days we will start our bootcamp in Cologne. Today I booked the flights for Staki, who's flying in from Warsaw. And yeah, we're gonna have a bootcamp for actually 12 days or something, which is ridiculously long. But we will play some officials from there, the Red Bull home ground, the first days of VRL. Yeah, our new roster consists of so we benched Leon and Blitzen. And we added Atsuri, who's I think completely unknown in international level. He played for Ryzen, so he got a second place in the second division and was a star player on their roster. I had him on the radar, but I didn't think I would take him just based on the fact that I also have a lot of good talent in my own academy team, right? But we gave him a chance and he surprised us. He turned 18 a few weeks ago and he's already quite mature. He's very professional and he's gonna play a sentinel role for us. And the second player is someone who might only stay with us for the rest of the year, but we'll plan a bit more later on in December. But for now we also picked Onibi, former OG player, and the little brother of Soon, who joined us last year already. So I have two French guys who live in the same house. So if one is late, talk to your brother. But they're never late. They are the most professional guys I've ever worked with. So I don't worry about that at all. And the good thing about him is he also brings a lot of firepower, and he plays this Sova Fade role that nobody really wants to play in my team. So I'm pretty happy that I found him.
I guess it's important to have all bases covered. And when we were speaking in the previous part, which you can find out somewhere on the screen or in the description below as well, I'm sure, you said when you're looking at picking certain players, it's always so important to build up that chemistry. With the bootcamp on the horizon as well, what are the main things you want to focus on when you have that experience to build that team cohesion in person?
Yeah. So I mean, we talked about it a few times in the past, but we never really had the time with our previous boot camps, and there were also some restrictions with COVID. Not all of my players were vaccinated back then. We weren't allowed to do certain team activities, but we have, like I said, like 12 days. So we do want to, soon he was already researching what kind of activities we could do as a team. So, we already get along quite well. I think this is the most on a human level. I never had a team that
you connected with more, perhaps bonded.
Ever. Like even when I had a fully German roster, it didn't click as well as it does now. So I'm super happy already on that front. We still want to put a lot of time in team building. That they trust each other, that they like each other, that they know each other. But it's already going really well, and we're gonna grind hard as well, obviously.
You now have one split behind you already for the last VRL. All from your experiences there and how you performed. I see you said you're a little bit frustrated finishing 7th, considering the round differential that you ended up having. What other learning experiences can you take away from the previous split, and how will you implement that with this new team?
So one thing was that last season we played super close matches, overtime matches, 11-13, like 3 times, and it was mostly the same. That the problem was not necessarily the skill, but it was that not all the players believed in the philosophy of how we practice, of how we think and play, right? And we didn't have enough energy. So when everything was going downhill and you felt like the game was slipping away, the team wasn't really fighting it. It didn't feel like we were fighting it. We didn't really try to bounce back. It was like people stopped talking and they went too much with their comfort choices. So something we worked on was also that Benny, who's our IGL, he went to his comfort choices, which was a lot of the time I go in somewhere dry and shoot him in the face with no support, right? But
Yeah.
against good teams, you can't always do that. And then, so
Yeah.
there were a lot of tiny mistakes because I think we were on a good path. I mean, we came 7th, but we had a positive round difference. So I think the season was okay, but it was like those 5-10% that we're missing, and that we're gonna keep doing what we're doing, which is we have the system that, I mean, partly I take it from my experience as in education, right, from my studies, that we try to connect practice and theory as much as we can.
Okay.
So I don't want to have one day full theory, one day full practice. I think that's nonsense, because you need this constant feedback. So when we go in a game, we say, what do we want to practice in this, right? And then we play the game, and then after the game, did it work? Why didn't it work? What can we do better? And then I try to book the same map 2-3 times in a row, so we can just fix it on the spot, right? And then I think our philosophy as a team and how we play is quite unique in a way that we don't make a lot of plans in a way, like in terms of strategies, because you change the map, you change an agent, and the strategy doesn't work anymore, right? But we talk a lot about how we play certain situations. So the situations are always going to be the same. And if you have players who think the same, then they can just focus on the game. So in clutch situations, in 2v1s and 2v2s, we talk a lot to the players and make sure that they all want to play the situations in the same way, that in order to keep actually communication down to a minimum. We don't want to talk a lot. We want to hear every step and every tiny little clue, and we want players to focus on the crosshair, shoot people in the head, right? So if you talk while you fight, it's gonna take a bit of your attention level away. So that's why we talk a lot just about how we play, and not so much about certain strategies. And we're gonna do the same in the bootcamp. It's just gonna be a lot more intense. And I hope the players are gonna have fun, that we can take this positive vibe that we have at the moment just through the season, even if we drop a game. But yeah, just based on our results of how we're scrimming, based on my expertise looking at the other rosters, I think we have a pretty good chance to actually make it to the DreamHack LAN, which is gonna be in December in Hanover. On end of December. That's definitely where we want to go. We need to get top 4 in Unity. And Unity, I don't know if you're familiar with the concept. So all VRL teams, all 8 teams are going to play against the top 8 VRC teams. So it's going to be 16 teams, double elimination, best of 3 tournament in November also. And then the winners of that, the top 4, go to this LAN where we want to go.
Nice. You speak a lot about philosophy in that passage as well. When you look at the calling structure for your team, do you have one IGL? When you look at timeouts as well, how involved are you with those? Is it a mixture of coach and IGL, or do you give them the floor and an opportunity to say their piece instead?
So since during an official, you only have the 2 timeouts during a game, except overtime, that limits the pause for the coach to a very short time. And usually we do it in a way that Capio's in the coach slot, and he's streaming for me on Discord, and we are discussing options, right? And we're discussing what's going on and what's going wrong. And then he calls the timeout. So during the timeout, only he speaks. Sometimes he only says like 5 words. It's like, you're doing great, just calm down. And that's all he does. And then the players don't talk, right? So we just give this impulse during the pause. But I think in VALORANT, it's set up in a game in a sense that you have enough time in each round start to talk about the problem and to get a new plan if you're quick about it. So the coaches, I mean, during an official, you don't have a lot of impact as a coach in the current system. You just don't. And we try to have, like I told you before, I think, we try to have a system in which each player takes a lot of responsibility making their own decisions, right? So the idea is that they don't need us. That's where we want to get them, that they just function on their own, right? And during the game, Benny is the IGL. On CT side, he doesn't talk as much. He doesn't call as much. We have Starkey who supports him. Soon is also very vocal, but it's also based on the maps. Like we give each spot the freedom to say what they want, right? And then Benny and Starkey try to have like the big picture in mind. Oh, you pushed twice on C, so you shouldn't be doing this anymore because blah blah blah, and then they change it up. But we are not. It's not like a micromanage kind of style. It's more of a mid round. A lot of focuses are just on game sense and reading situations and playing together in duos and trios, and
I think it was the same when I spoke to Gorilla as well. He said that his style of coaching is to very much let the players work as their own self-sufficient unit. Would you then potentially suggest that it's the reason why a team like Sentinels were able to go for so long without having a coach? Because sometimes it's more about having that inbuilt ideology and then carrying that through in the game than having someone who puts you to the side, a traditional manager, hard-headed type to sort of then impress those ideas during the game. As in, preparation is more important than anything that you're able to do in the mid game.
I think in Sentinels it could be the case that now I forgot his name.
Raucus?
No, they're IGL.
Shazam?
Yes, right. He comes from CS, right? And I think he's been playing for a really long time, probably like my age. Back then, before you were like a professional player, you didn't have a coach, right? So the IGL was doing a lot of the coaching aspects. He was making the plans, he was making the strats, and the coach was just supporting it. So I think they had enough experience to just build on that, and him like navigating the team and telling them how to work and how to progress and set up strats and everything, that they didn't really need a coach. And with Ruckus, I feel like since he joined, is he still there? Yeah,
I believe so. But I mean, with franchising coming up, who even knows anymore?
I haven't felt a difference. Like I didn't see his impact. Like with some coaches, they come in and you see like the signature, the style is different, the comms are different. It just depends on the people, right? Like some people are trying to, this is how we play now. Like they impose their ideas, and others are just trying to support what's already there. It depends on the system you want to play. Like I think some teams are playing a style that doesn't suit with the players. Like you always need to. I like to talk about traditional sports because I'm also very familiar with that. But if you look at Bayern Munich or teams like that, they focus a lot of being in control, right? To having the ball, and like some VALORANT teams, they like to be in control, to be active, to control all spaces, right? And others are like, we don't need that. We just we have our setup. Come to us, and we destroy you, right? And then you need to have the right players to fit your philosophy. It's really hard to figure that out just in a few trials and put just a little bit of talk in, because, like I said, most players just want to have a team, and then sometimes they tell you what they think you want to hear, and then you figure it out along the way if they were honest with you or not.
Would you then argue, looking at some of the examples you gave, and at the top level of Valorant currently as well, with players like Finesse on Optic, Sassy on Loud, looking at the 2 finalists for Champions, and then Shazam as well, they all come from positions of experience. Would you argue that experience is more important than skill in some instances, or does it always have to be a balance of both?
I think if you reach the very highest level, you need both. You can't just have one, right? And it is a mix, right? If you have one player who doesn't really have his own personal impact and just focuses on managing the other 4 players, it is difficult to be. I mean, you are probably more consistent than teams who are just focused on skill. But I think it's really hard to just be on top, like completely on top. I mean, we've seen it in Big, where like in CS, we had Gobby, who was like trying to manage his team a lot. And that worked really well. But most of the time, they didn't get that top 1 spot, right? They were like top 10. So I think, if you have someone, but I think in terms of success on a LAN event, experience is actually more important, unless you have really those guys who can handle the pressure. Because like playing in the stadium and playing with crowds, most people are very strongly affected by it, but it's an effect that like it slows down. Like the more you do it, the more it's okay. And at some point, like it 8 years to be comfortable playing in front of like crowds. Like I had the most viewers I had was like 25,000. Or like when I once played Counter-Strike in Berlin in the studio, we had like 6,000 and cameras on us and everything. And at the beginning it's kind of but at some point I'm trying to get my players there that they're like I want them to want this, right? Like watch me get this highlight, right? To be comfortable in the spotlight, to not only like, okay, it's a spotlight, I perform the same. No, you're supposed to perform better, right? You're supposed to try to impress everyone, not with like just kills, but with like playing well.
Speaking about experience as well, I think there was an interesting stat at Champions recently that when the IGL is the first player to die, the percentage that the round is won is higher than if it was another player. What's your opinion on that effect and how a player can affect the mid round through calling?
Yeah, I mean, that really depends on the kind of IGL you have, I think. Because with us, it's a little bit that Benny is someone who likes to feel the game, right? That's why he plays Duelist. He doesn't want to play anything else. Like we had him on Sova, and he said, like, if I'm further back, I don't have the same feeling. I don't feel like I'm impacting. I can't carry the game. He doesn't have to carry the game, but a lot of the times, if he puts up great numbers, which he did, like we had last time we didn't make it into VCT, but we got like top 16 twice or something. We lost to Guild one time, the other time to Case, right? Two really strong teams, right? We had super strong runs, and it was because he was IGLing, but he was also top fragging. And most of the time, the IGL, if you compare with like when we played Yonk, right, back then, you had Bonka who had like 15 kills, and then you had Benny who had like 50. If you check the stats, they both IGL, right? But one is putting up twice the numbers. And I think that has a really big impact if you make this kind of system work. But that also means he doesn't call as much as other players. And what I want to say, I just got the thought. One sec. If he dies, he doesn't like IGLing because he says, when I'm not playing, I don't have the feeling as strongly. So he doesn't. So someone else takes over usually for us. So in the past it was Blitzen mostly, and now it would probably be Starkey who would be just take over the role. Benny wouldn't call as much anymore. But I think FNS probably just calls the whole round, and then that works well for them.
That's really interesting because I think as well, when you look at a sports environment and esports separately to that, I suppose, it's very different in the way that tactics will be called during the game. You don't have the same kind of liberties of calling that you would in football, for example, with a manager on the touchline or breaks in the middle to be discussing things over. Then looking at the players that you've brought in from the players that were benched, what were the main objectives that you were looking for in finding these players when you scouted them?
Yeah, at the beginning I said I want someone with a very positive energy, right? So we were trialing Alex, for example. I'm not sure if he got a team right now, but he's like he's from not from the UK, he's from Ireland, Northern Ireland. He was a great guy. Like he was so fun when he was there. He brought this positive energy, and people were more comfortable, and they talked, and it went really well. And I felt like I needed that, right? But then I also changed the German player, which I didn't think I would do. But then we picked Atsuri, and Atsuri also was this. He's so positive, and he's in such a good mood. Like every day he comes up and makes everyone happy, and then like, okay, I actually don't need so much good vibes from a fifth player. I can just focus a bit more on skill. And I mean, Onibi is more calm, right? He's a bit like Soon. I mean, they're brothers. You would expect it, right? And they're very just focused and calm, and they're more neutral, right? So that was like the main thing we said. We need a better team environment where people are happy. That was like on top. That was like the most important thing I said, because if it doesn't feel right, I can get like, there's a lot of players out there who are really good, nobody wants to play with. If I get those guys, I have to change again in 3 months, and I really don't want to do that. So that was actually my first point. And then I went through the list. Players gave me recommendations. We just wanted someone who fit with the style, who was just a really good player. And Onibi is a really good player. He was on like rank 6. I ranked the
Oh,
players in
like
which order I want them, and he
okay.
was only on like rank 6 or 7 or something.
Mm,
So I also trial in that orders, like my
yeah.
favorites come first, right? Because maybe they're gone if I wait 3 weeks. Like we tried players, they got offers from really big brands. So I'm like, if they want you, I understand why you go there, right?
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't fit, they probably go there.
I mean,
I understand.
how big of a list or a short list do you usually create in terms of players that you'll be looking for to add to a certain role or even multiple roles?
If I need one player, I have around 8 to 12 players that I want to look at.
Okay, that's a pretty comprehensive list. How do you try and slim it down the best?
I interview everyone
Hmm.
for like an hour.
Yeah. Does that cut
Uh,
it down by like half already then off the back of the interview or
no,
no?
I mean, I have a feeling. I mostly go by feeling. Then I
Hmm.
tell like this player fits with you guys, and I'm mostly right. But it just changes the order in which I want to try them. But
Okay.
nobody really falls out of the process if
Mm.
they don't convince me.
Yeah.
Right? I think everybody still got their trial, but sometimes they fall down in the list, and then I go down the list, and like the Oni was like on 6 or something,
Mm.
and he was really good, and then Oni and Alex, and I think like yeah, 2 more good players that we had at the time. Like
Mm.
we were trying just those 4 players, and I was pretty confident that one of them would fit, and like I didn't trial everyone. Like
Yeah.
most of the time, I don't have the time to trial everyone
Yeah.
because we have the rule unless it really doesn't fit, players get 2 or 3 days
Mm-hmm.
at least. And if it works really well, they get another week or something. But
Mm.
after one day, it's really hard to judge someone. So
Uh-huh. So
yeah, not everyone got a trial, sadly.
yeah, well, I guess it can be difficult when you have so many different players to try and work through. But the main thing that I'm understanding about this roster as a whole is it's one which is built on a feeling and a good feeling at that as well. So I think that pretty much wraps up the interview here. Obviously, you have the boot camp coming up. What else is next for you as well, not just as a team, but as a coach?
Um, so actually, the rest of this year is going to be pretty stacked with events
Mm-hmm.
because we have the VRL DACH off season, which is nice to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have the Unity after. If we make it, we have the DreamHack.
Mm-hmm.
We drive to Lyon in November. There's a LAN in France with 50,000 euro on
Mm-hmm.
the line, which is pretty amazing. And luckily, since the French region and the German region are managed by the same company, they actually compared their calendars and they said, "Oh, you have 2 French players, 2 German players. Would you like to take part in the French France de Coupe? I think it's called." And then
Yeah.
yeah, we actually play French off season as well at the same time. So it's
Yeah.
gonna be so stacked, so many
Mm.
officials. I'm super excited about that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't even know who's playing there right now, but it's gonna be sick. And if we perform well there, but the French league is really strong. If we
Mm.
perform well there, which is the plan, there would be another LAN. So I would have 3 LANs with the main team, and I have like 3 LANs with the academy team at the same time. That's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be
Yeah.
crazy. And in terms of being a coach, I mean, I already like my job the way it is because
Mm.
like I think we talked about it a lot. I have the coaching aspects, but I'm also interested like in the psychology behind it, and
Mm.
in sports, in nutrition, in everything. And I try to talk to my players about all of these aspects because they all influence performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a great overlap. And at the same time I'm trying to improve myself. I'm more the nerd, I think, in this kind of regard. In our
Yeah.
code, like me and Capio, I read like books about like habits and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. I current book I'm listening to is called Legacy, and it's about the All
Mm.
Blacks, and it's about team culture a lot,
Yeah.
and like how they became one of the most successful teams. And I lived in New Zealand for 6 months. I watched uh, the national
Mm.
rugby league team, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I love New Zealand, so it's interesting on all levels
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there is so much overlap with sport as well, but it sounds as if you've got lots coming up. So, of course, I won't hold you any longer. Is there any social medias that people can find you on, or but best to promote, or a shout
Yeah,
out to anyone else, perhaps? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I'm pretty active on Twitter. I'm gonna start
Hmm.
everything else. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
coaching on MetaFi now because I want to make some more money and I want to offer lessons there. It's
Hmm.
on on Twitter as well. But my YouTube, Twitch, everything is just, I'm slowly building it up, but it's not very big there. A shout out, I don't know, to my team. I'm not sure who's watching this. If you watch it, write me a message, because I don't think everybody's watching it.
We'll have to see. All right, thank you very much.